At UMC, access to your health care is only a call away. Dial 74-NURSE for free, instant medical advice from experienced and trusted UMC nurses, 24 hours a day. Learn more at umchealthsystem.com.
Welcome everyone to RedRaiders.com. I am Zach Long with Don Williams, the namesake for this show. We call it Don versus Twitter, where every week Don Williams faces down his loyal followers on Twitter and tries to answer their Texas Tech football questions. And Don, your followers have been very gracious to you this week. A lot of really nice questions here.
That's right. We got a great feedback, great response, and we actually had a little bit of a backlog. Had one or two from last week that we hadn't gotten to, and so we'll try to tackle those today as well.
Well, fantastic. Let's get right into it, Don, and go with the first question here from Scott Riddle at JS Riddle. Don Williams, are you expecting to see a stark improvement in special teams performances this year?
Well, early indications from Saturday night were good. The thing I was most impressed with is what Texas Tech did on kickoffs and kickoff coverage. Tech kicked off 8 times, and 5 of those were touchbacks. 4 of them by Kramer Fife, who didn't have a whole lot of touchbacks last year, so that was a good sign. And then the other thing was they had 3 tackles on kickoff returns that were inside the 20. And so kickoff coverage was good, and then Brandon Jackson, I thought, was really a beast on punt coverage. So you got that, and then you also have the potential for obviously a bigger kickoff return game with Jakeem Grant back there full-time this year.
All right, next question. I like this subject matter here, Don. Casey Von Allen has for you, will the Shuttle Draw be making a triumphant return to the Jones?
If I'm interpreting Casey's question correctly, and he's referring to the old shovel pass backhand flip that the quarterbacks always did during the Mike Leach era, I don't think so. For a couple of reasons. One, I think Cliff is his own guy. He likes to come up with his own ideas. And we saw a little bit of that Saturday night with Jakeem Grant being used as a running back. And on one of those plays, he got 18 yards as a running back. I do think, with that said, though, that Tech will need something to slow the pass rush, which is kind of what that little shuttle pass used to do. And so I'm not sure if that's going to be, that may be Baker Mayfield does it himself with quarterback draws, with some counters, some zone reads, that sort of thing. So I think Cliff will have to come up with something to slow the pass rush, because Mayfield was sacked 4 times on Saturday night, but I don't think we'll see much of this in the future.
On the next one here, a little bit of a search party question from Clay Malinowski. He says, AJ Don Williams, where is Dominic Wheeler? Of course, referring to freshman wide receiver Dominic Wheeler.
I like that, a search party question. Short answer is he's just fighting a numbers game right now. Dominic Wheeler, of course, redshirt freshman, guy with a lot of promise, high expectations on him, but he is an outside receiver, so there's really only 2 positions that he can play. One of those is the split end, or X, as Texas Tech calls it, and you got Eric Ward there, and Sean Corker has kind of emerged as the number 2 guy. And then you have the Z position, or flanker, where you have Bradley Marcus is the starter and Reginald Davis is the backup who scored a touchdown on Saturday night. So I think what Dominic Wheeler's fighting is a little bit what the guys over at that split end spot went through when they were younger. Remember, Eric Ward had the same kind of expectations on him, and he didn't bust out until his sophomore year, 1 year farther along than what Dominic Wheeler is right now. And then Sean Corker, he's a junior now, and he had the same high expectations, and we've never seen him really do anything until just this year. So it may be a situation where Dominic Wheeler is just he's got guys in front of him, and it's going to take him a little more time before he can crack that rotation.
Next one here for you, Don, a very observant fan. I like those. Cliff looked frustrated after Baker's TD run when TV panned to him talking to Baker on the sideline. Do you know what the deal was there? And that question, of course, from Ben Orser at KTS.
I saw the same thing, Zach. After they scored the touchdown there in the 4th quarter, I was following along with my binoculars and watching on the sidelines, and sure enough, Cliff talked to Baker Mayfield for, 60 seconds or so, maybe longer than that. And I asked him in the postgame, I said, were you talking to him about the touchdown, or were you talking to him about the play before? Cliff said, the play before, because he made up a check that, in Cliff's words, he made up a check at the line that we don't have. And so what happened, that was when Kenny Williams and DeAndre Washington went. Have you ever seen 2 running backs run collide harder.
It was particularly impressive in that situation.
So, yeah, Cliff Kingsbury said that's what I was talking to him about, was that play before where they lost 9 yards because the running backs smashed together. He said that was Baker Mayfield's fault, so he was letting him know about it.
Yeah, because most likely not unhappy about an 11-yard touchdown run by your freshman quarterback.
That part looked pretty good, I think.
Don, we have 2 questions here from the same viewer again, Jeremy DeJow. And Jeremy, if I am mispronouncing your last name, I deeply apologize. I consider myself a cultured person, but this name is definitely challenging, so hopefully Don and I are doing it right for you. But let's get to your first question for Don. Were the mishaps at SMU just early game jitters, or should I be worried?
And he referred to fumble snaps, the running backs running together, some early snaps, those sorts of things. I think some early game jitters are natural, or maybe not necessarily even jitters, just first time you're out in a game situation against another team. Not everything's going to go smoothly. I think, though, you might be in a situation where maybe you could be worried on an ongoing basis, partly because I get the sense from watching Baker Mayfield that he's a guy who's going to be very fly by the seat of his pants, freelance type of player, and I don't say that in a bad way. I think we saw on Saturday night, he's an exciting player, and I get the impression that he's a guy who's going to take a lot of chances. He has a strong arm. He's going to try to maybe force some passes sometimes that make you cringe a little bit, and he's also going to take off running, and he has enough speed to go get 5 yards, 10 yards, move the sticks, the kind of things that give defensive coordinators gray hair. But I think with him, you kind of have to take the good with the bad. There's a whole lot of good, but Cliff said he played reckless on Saturday night, and I'm not sure that that's something that you either can coach out of him. I'm not sure that's something that you want to coach completely out of him, because I think that's why my sense is that's why he's was so successful Saturday night and why he's been so successful to this point in his football career.
Okay, Jeremy's second question, another good one here, and we're going to have to do a little explanation inside this one. So judging from 2K's game plan on Friday, I'm assuming that means Cliff Kingsbury, and I kind of like the 2K's reference there. I will give you a tip, though, Jeremy. You might want to copyright that 2K's thing as quickly as possible. The question continues to say, I take it we will not have a 1K rusher this year as well.
No 1,000-yard rusher, man. They certainly did not. They're certainly not on a good pace. After you saw DeAndre Washington carry 4 times for 9 yards and Kenny Williams carry 9 times for 7 yards. The thing about that is, I don't think that was necessarily the game plan to go 2/3 passing or 3/4 passing, 1/3 and 1/4 running. I asked Cliff Kingsbury on Monday, kind of what he would prefer that ratio to be, and he said he thought it would be more 50-50, but he said we're going to do what we can, do what it takes for us to win the football game. If that's passing all the time, then it'll be passing. If it's running the ball effectively, it'll be running. But bottom line is, we said this going into the season, offensive line is a question mark. There's not a lot of experience up there. There's only one senior, a couple of juniors, and you're playing with a lot of freshmen, redshirt freshmen and sophomores, and so the running game, I think, is going to be a little bit of a struggle early. Now, one thing I will say is SMU was, I believe, a top 20 rushing defense last year nationally, and so they were doing some things up front, slanting inside, presenting kind of a 7-man front with 5 guys to block them that caused them some trouble. But you're right, it's not off to a good start on the running game.
But I'm guessing we can go ahead and give them a little inside tip. You will see the running backs rack up a few yards against Stephen F. Austin on Saturday at the Jones. And Don, our next question comes from Matt Clare, another good one. Don, other than Mayfield, what redshirt freshman or true freshman impressed you the most for Texas Tech on Friday night?
Zach, redshirt freshman, Reginald Davis, the wide receiver. That play at the end of the game where he took a short pass and turned it into a 22-yard touchdown. You watch it on video, and there were 5, maybe even more SMU guys that had a shot at him as he goes all the way across the field and dodging guys and then running it into the end zone for a touchdown. He looked like he was back at Tenaha running against 1A competition, the way he made the Mustangs tacklers look on that play. So that's a little glimpse of kind of what Texas Tech's expecting from Reginald Davis in the future as a guy with great open field running ability. So him for redshirt freshman. True freshman, Malik Jenkins, the linebacker from Ennis. I've been hearing all summer Matt Wallerstedt and Mike Smith love this guy. Matt Wallerstedt talks about, supposedly guys have seen him in the gym doing 360 dunks. Mike Smith says he's a big guy and they think he has a lot of growth potential. Tall guy, great frame. He's already 6'2", 6'3", probably in the 210-pound range. And then on Saturday night, first kickoff, he runs down there and knocks down the SMU return man inside the 20-yard line. And he out later in the game had a pass breakup, got in on defense in the fourth quarter. So I can see why the defensive coordinator and co-defensive coordinator are so excited about this guy's potential.
And the last one, Don, this is another good one as well from the A-Flow show, and this is a question I think a lot of Texas Tech fans are probably wondering about right now. Don Williams, what are the chances Tech burns Webb's redshirt this weekend? If we go up big in the first half, would it be worth it, or just leave Baker Mayfield in? Of course, referring to Davis Webb.
Yeah, I've changed my mind on this one after seeing the first game. If you had asked, if you had asked me this question at this time last week, I would have said Davis Webb is going to play this year. Forget it. Don't even think about the redshirt possibility. You're going to need him, and both the freshman quarterbacks are going to play because I thought that they were that close, and I didn't, and maybe still don't envision a scenario where Baker Mayfield won't struggle at some point this season. So a week ago, I would have said, forget about it. Redshirting is not even a possibility for Davis Webb. Now, I've changed my mind for two reasons. One, if Baker Mayfield continues to play the way he did on Saturday night, there's no reason to take him out. And two, the other thing to consider here is even if you're have the game under control, you're ahead 41-16 like you were last Saturday, you got to keep in mind Baker Mayfield has only been on campus for 8 weeks now. I mean,
Right.
He didn't get here until July 10th or so. And so he is still very much trying to get on the same page with his receivers and everybody on the offense. And so I think Cliff Kingsbury probably looks at it right now and says he needs to invest as many reps as possible in Baker Mayfield if he's the starting quarterback. And so to him, it's not garbage time. If it's 41-16 and 5 minutes left in the game, there's still an opportunity for him to go out there and have another series where he clicks with Eric Ward and Bradley Marcus and Jakeem Grant and all those guys. And so I think the way Cliff might view it now is even if you're ahead 63-7 on Saturday night, those snaps in the fourth quarter are still important from a preparation standpoint for Baker Mayfield.
And quite frankly, Don, you may look at it as running up the score in a situation against a lesser, talented opponent, but quite frankly, a very quick turnaround before next Thursday, the Big 12 opener against a TCU team where he is darn sure going to have to be ready for.
Exactly, and so I don't think even in a perfect scenario, if you came in on Saturday night and were ahead 35-0 at halftime, I think it still makes sense to keep Baker Mayfield out there, like you just said, to get ready for TCU.
Don, another excellent group of questions from your Twitter followers. We really appreciate it. Keep those coming next week after the Tech SFA game, and we will try to get them on for you right off the bat next Monday. Like we said, a quick turnaround week before TCU. Until then, we got a lot of other good products coming this week, including our segment with Krista Pirtle and, of course, our UMC Health System AJ Media pregame show. But right now, that's going to wrap it up for another episode of Don versus Twitter. For Don Williams, I'm Zach Long. We'll see you next time.